We honor the life of Jamel Moore and Timothy Dean and demand justice for all survivors of Ed Buck. Sex Workers Outreach Project LA demands an end to violence against all sex workers, including those engaged in survival economies. One moment. SWAP LA is committed to creating dignity for people in the sex trade, especially those impacted by criminalization and state violence. On Monday, January 7, 2019, upon shocking news of the death of Timothy Moore, the second black man found dead at the home of prominent Democratic donor Ed Buck, SWAP was compelled to action. Jamel Moore and Timothy Dean were beloved members of their communities and had also been engaged in the sex industries to different extents. While race has centrally informed the lack of response from the state and the city of West Hollywood, stigma against sex work and criminalization of survival crimes enabled the violence experienced by Jamel Moore and others at the hands of Ed Buck. As part of
Thank you all for coming out tonight. I actually came here with a prepared statement to address you guys with, but as soon as I arrived here, I was hit with a strong feeling of anxiety because myself, at your last candidate forum, I was a victim of racial discrimination right outside this door right here. No candidate, no sitting official, no one even thought to ask me was I okay, thought to reach out to law enforcement. There was sheriffs called because I miraculously disturbed your meeting on leave, but not about the racial discrimination, and it hasn't to this day been addressed by anybody sitting there. With the Ed Buck situation, the sheriff department failed the community with Ed Buck situation. You let elected officials fail the community with the Ed Buck situation. John Duran, an alleged sex offender, sexual assaultee, failed his city with the Ed Buck situation, and now there's 2 deaths. So, no, it wasn't a rush to judgment. It was a lack of sympathy and empathy and justice for the community of color. It was a lack of investigation because the 2 dead bodies do not look like you guys. Or because the mayor is in the pocket of the perp, we're going to turn a blind eye to it. Or because the mayor is a perp himself, we're going to turn a blind eye to it. I don't know how any of you guys are okay with sitting next to a perp, working next to a perp. I'm ashamed that a perp had to announce me, and you guys should be ashamed to be sitting next to him. Your first order of business after your election should be to get John Duran out that goddamn seat. Okay.
You guys actually did in fact care about Black lives. You would hand back the money of Ed Buck that was put towards your campaign, and also I would want to understand how and why Ed Buck is still free after 2 people were killed or murdered at his home, and another person, my understanding, was killed very close to the scene of his home from a very similar overdose of meth, and yet he is still free to continue doing what he wants to do. My understanding is shortly after the most recent death, he had somebody that was slated to come to his house, I think a day or 2 after or the day of the funeral, and I don't understand how he's still able to walk free, when if it would be a black person in a similar situation, he would be locked up the moment they entered his house and they found a dead person.
Correspondence from the Los Angeles County Commission on Human Relations. We also received correspondence from the California Legislative LGBT Caucus and a letter signed onto by 41 organizations asking for this issue to be thoroughly and properly investigated. So I would ask if we could, under the city manager's report, have a report from the sheriff's department to speak to this issue so the community can be informed about what's happening. And I will have a couple of questions for you at that time.
And everybody that's here tonight. My name is Bill Mulder. I'm the acting captain at West Hollywood Sheriff Station, and I'll be providing an update on the death investigations for Jamel Moore and Timothy Dean. The Sheriff Alex Villanueva has released a statement about this particular these investigations. He is directing that we do a thorough investigation, that our Homicide Bureau does a thorough investigation, and that's also an objective investigation as well. He's very aware of this and putting department resources towards this. To the question earlier regarding does the Homicide Bureau have enough resources, we indeed do. So we have quite a large amount of resources for them to conduct a particular investigation. So, an update tonight, and as you well know, in these types of investigations, not a lot of information is released, just to preserve the integrity of the investigation. I got an update last week, they were still interviewing people regarding this case, people that are coming forward with some information. We're analyzing some evidence that's been collected, and that's being processed at this time as well. The other thing that we're waiting for, as you know, the autopsy has been completed, and we're waiting for the toxicology reports and other reports to come back finalized. They usually take a little bit of time, unfortunately. And in addition, myself, I have been in contact with our homicide bureau lieutenant on a weekly basis, getting updates. He is in charge of the team that is doing this investigation. I also, on Friday, had the opportunity to speak to Joanne Campbell, who is Timothy Dean's sister. She lives in Florida. I spoke with her by phone. We talked for quite a while about Timothy and about the investigation and so forth. And I offered her that anytime she wants to talk about it, she can give me a call. And when she's out in LA, I extended an invitation to meet with her. I also had the opportunity a couple weeks back during the Public Safety Commission meeting to meet and speak with Jerome Kitchen. And I gave him my information, my contact information, so anytime he can contact me, and I know that he's close with Jamel's mother, and I also extended the same invitation to her through him, that when she's here in LA next time, would be happy to meet with her. And I said anytime they want to call me and get an update or just talk about the investigation, what I can talk about, I'm happy to do that. So those are the kind of things that have been happening thus far. Unfortunately, I can't get into, like I said, all the details, but I thank the City Council for all your support in this investigation, and that concludes my update.
Thank you, Captain Mulder. Any colleague have questions? Lindsay?
I have two questions, Mayor. I want to reiterate that I know that I sent you the letter from the LA Human Relations Commission, but I want to reiterate that we want to make sure that we address their concerns, which include health, safety, and equity of all members of the LGBTQ community, and that race and class should not interfere with equal treatment under the law. So I do have two questions. One came from correspondence we received today that letters of immunity were issued for people to be interviewed and to testify, but as of yet, the District Attorney's Office has not received any requested interviews from your department. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, like I said earlier, our homicide bureau investigators are indeed interviewing quite a few people. I don't know why in this particular case why those interviews have not been conducted yet, but my understanding is, I'm sure that those kinds of interviews, they will be conducted at some point in this investigation. So as of now, I don't know why they haven't been, but I assume they will be.
It's a report of the second death, Mr. Dean's death. I've received a lot of correspondence, text messages, phone calls about this from many members of the community, many who are concerned about coming forward and speaking up publicly, so I commend those who did tonight because I know it takes a lot of courage to do that. But I guess what I'm struggling with is communicating with these residents who are deeply disturbed about the similarities in both cases, and the concern that it raises to them that it might happen again. I know this is something that's been raised on more than one occasion. So what are you doing to make sure that this doesn't happen again?
Well, with this particular situation, with this particular, these two incidents, what is currently going on is the investigation. So our investigation on this matter, I think, is in parts of that addressing it and maybe seeing that this won't happen again with this particular type of situation, with these particular people and this particular individual. So the investigation is proceeding, and part of that will, I think, inform that question once that investigation is completed.
Well, I think to the extent that the city can play any role in working with you to make sure that it doesn't happen again, if there's any, as my colleagues have asked for, if there's any need for resources or support, we want to make sure this doesn't happen again. And if it's determined that drugs are playing a significant factor in ongoing behavior there, that we participate with you in some sort of preventative measures to make
Jamel Moore case was quietly closed about 6 months ago. And if that wasn't the case, has it been reopened? And are we looking at both of those in relationship to each other and separately again, of course?
The Jamel Moore case, our detectives from our Homicide Bureau did present evidence and took the case to the District Attorney's Office. And back on, I believe, July 26th, the day before the year anniversary of Jamel Moore's death, the District Attorney did not decide to seek prosecution in that situation. So this current investigation, to your question, will certainly inform more information for that particular investigation as well.
Thank you. Councilman Blount?
Yes, thank you again for the update and thank you for the work you're doing. One of the questions I have is, you mentioned homicides involvement. Is the Narcotics Bureau also involved?
Currently, not by now, we're not currently involved with this. It's a homicide case, and so the homicide will control the investigation.
Mayor?
Yes, I'm trying to hold over. Please, we need to hear what the captain's saying, so we
No,
can
it's not touch
questions.
boards first.
We need you to please be quiet.
We need you
Go
to
ahead,
The reason I ask is that there certainly have been reports, obviously in the media, that there were narcotics found at the location. And would they be consulted as part of the homicide investigation, or would the Narcotics Bureau not be involved at all?
Well, I can tell you in general that on investigations, like a homicide investigation where there are other things found at the scene, that's all part of the same homicide investigation. They do control the investigation.
So they would, if there were narcotics-related offenses, they would be able to make the case for those as well as for homicide, if that were the case.
So in general, when we conduct these type of investigations, if there's other crimes that have been committed in or around the particular specific crime they're investigating, or the investigation they're conducting, that those would then be folded into it. They can be folded into an investigation and a prosecution.
Thank you.
Tonight, you came in here and told us nothing. A mom is going to sleep tonight knowing nothing. I talked to Bill's mom, and she's dealing with the fact that her daughter, her baby girl, is dealing with suicidal thoughts. And then today, you guys come in here and tell our community nothing. Nothing. Everything you told us, we could have did that in a Facebook status. That's nothing. How insensitive is it that the people that's investigating this crime for our community is not here? How do we take them serious and they have not showed their face to the community? How can we take that serious? If this was a white girl, the homicide detective investigating it would be out here delivering that report. But you know what they did to you today? They sent you out here as the token to get this ridicule because they're not doing shit. And they think it's okay.
That's not
No, it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true, sir. It's 19 months and we have nothing. We have nothing. No, she closed Jamil's case the week before the anniversary of his death without telling us nothing. So again, I tell you, we have nothing. Don't tell us this load of bull crap.
If you don't want to hear us, then
I really don't want to hear. You're the prep guy. I'm talking to the man in charge. Right? I'm sorry. No, this is anger because you guys came here with a folder full of nothing.
But if you have
a
questions
folder
for us, we'll
full of
answer.
nothing. No, I don't
But we're
have
not gonna stand
questions.
here and
I'm
get yelled at.
addressing him. You don't even have to stand here. You're nobody. I'm talking to the person in charge. He don't have any problem. So now he's going to be your puppet master until you leave. You are sitting right here listening because I'm getting under his skin. He wants to be your puppet master and tell you to leave. But when all your officers are standing right there, parked the same exact way, and I was being racially discriminated right here, not one officer came up. But now he's coming to your defense because I'm yelling at you.
Working together on that, if you don't have the powers, that if we come back and work with you with the federal government agencies to get that information released to the public, we can work with that, right? You can make a request, absolutely. You can make a request and you will work with that.
Can you just give us the basics as to where we are right now?
Well, as I said tonight here at the City Council meeting, the couple things that we could report are the fact that our Homicide Bureau are doing investigation and interviewing multiple witnesses regarding this situation. So just as of last week, they were interviewing people regarding regarding this matter. And we're just waiting for toxicology to come back from the coroner's office, and those are really the only things that we can release at this point.
What can you tell us about the immunity letters when people say that they haven't been contacted and they want to be contacted?
Well, you know, that's something that, again, Homicide Bureau is handling all of the interviews regarding this, so I'm not aware, except for the letter that was presented about those particular situations. But certainly I know, because I'm in contact with the Homicide Bureau Lieutenant Weekly that oversees this team, and that they are working very hard, and they're interviewing quite a few people regarding this matter. People are coming forward with information.
Is it possible that the Jamel Moore case will be reopened given the new evidence in this case, or is that not going to be represented? Or could it be?
Well, as the sheriff said in the statement that we released, that we're looking at this case, the Timothy Dean case, and then anything that can inform the previous case will all be considered.
So it could be reopened, it could be represented. It's possible. There's no statute.
Yeah, there's no statute.
Understanding the obvious coincidence, the two men died in the apartment of Ed Buck. There are some glaring differences, are there not, between these two men that died?
Well, again, I can't get into any of the particulars about the case. That's part of the homicide investigation, and again, very important to maintain the integrity of the investigation, and that's why we don't release all that information. I'm sorry. But what we released tonight is what we could, and those particulars we can't get into.
What can you tell us about Ed Buck? Are you getting his cooperation? Have you told Mr. Buck to stay in town? What are his instructions?
Again, I'm not familiar with exactly what the communication was between our Homicide Bureau investigators and Mr. Buck. I can't comment on that.
Do you know why Ed Buck wasn't arrested for the drug paraphernalia found in his home?
I do know that was collected. Some evidence was collected, possibly from the location, and anything that was collected, as the city council member asked today, can be considered at some point.
But initially, do you know why he was not arrested initially?
You mean for the Jamel Moore case?
Yes, for both. I guess for Jamel Moore, yes.
That's right. Why wasn't he interrogated at the station? Isn't that protocol after 2 deaths?
Okay, thank you. Please spelling your name. I don't think I got it. It's Captain...
Lieutenant, acting captain, Mulder, M-O-U-L-D-E.
On this case in the Sheriff's Department, I only today got an email from the sheriffs, which I'm really happy to show you on my phone, that says they were finally ready to conduct interviews. We got that interview today. We have had the letters of immunity from the DA's office, from DA Craig Hum, for quite some time, and the sheriffs were too busy to interview any of the witnesses or victims. Only today have they even bothered to reach out to myself and attorney Nana Jumphy to start the process of interviewing these other young black men who have stepped forward. So it's really disheartening to hear the captain and others step forward and say that they've been working so hard on this case when they have not been. They have not been. They have not. It's going to be a month this week since Timothy Dean has been dead, and you're just now reaching out to do interviews. So if anybody wants to see the email, I'm happy to pull my phone out and show it to you. No problem. But I just wanted to throw that out there.